Hello, Andrew Cooksey here. Today I'm going to demonstrate to you how to set the X dimension on your KTM 200 engine. Actually, I'm going to show you two ways. One way will be using a tool that I made that has a dial indicator in it, and another way will be simply using some items that you probably have in your garage today. Well, let's get on with it. The KTM OEM service manual states that for 2003 onward, the X dimension for the 200 is to be 0. Like the image here shows, the top of the flat top piston is to be even with the recess when at top dead center. We just saw in the service manual for the X dimension to be 0, the top of the piston is to be even with this recess at top dead center. So here's the tool that I made to measure the X dimension, and it has a dial indicator that reads in 1/1000th of an inch increments, and it has these two flat surfaces that will rest on the recess in here, and it attaches to the cylinder with just the standard head bolts. But the first thing we need to do is we need to set it on a flat surface and set the pointer to 0. And what that does is that means that the pointer, when the piston pushes the pointer up even with these flats or even with the recess, the pointer will read 0. So here we have the piston and the cylinder installed. The base nuts are snug, but there's no base gasket installed. So we're going to take our tool, attach it to the head just using the standard head bolts. There we go. We're going to rotate the flywheel to move the piston. We're going up, 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 up. Now the pointer's moving around. There it crosses 0, it's moving, 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 and there is top dead center, between 20 and 21/1000ths of an inch. So now, knowing that at top dead center, our piston is 20/1000ths of an inch above the recess in the cylinder, here are the base gaskets that are available for the 200, and you probably know this. But 0.2 millimeter, 0.25 millimeter, 0.4, 0.5, and 0.75. And looky here, this 0.5 millimeter is 20/1000ths of an inch. So that's exactly the base gasket that we need for this engine to have X equals 0. Here's another way that you can check and set the X dimension with stuff you got in the garage. So we just need a flat surface that will sit down here on this recess. And it doesn't matter what it is, I don't think, it just needs to be flat. And so I happen to have this piece of aluminum, and that end's milled flat, deburred. We're going to put it on here. Might look a little bit crude, but that kind of supports the fact that, you know, you just need something flat. And if you had an assistant, to hold this in place, you wouldn't even need these hokey bungee cords. Alright, so I'm going to roll the flywheel, and so as you would, and I have a 0.75 millimeter base gasket installed. Okay, 0.75 millimeter base gasket installed, and the piston doesn't touch the flat, as you would expect. And so what I'm going to do is, I've got some feeler gauges here. Here's a 7/1000th. We'll put that in here. No contact. 8/1000ths. Roll the piston up and down, no contact. 9/1000ths. Roll the piston up and down. It might have touched a little bit. 10/1000ths. There we go. We got some contact right there. All right. Well, what do we have here? Let's just draw it out. So we had cylinder. Here's the gasket surface, recess, bore. Same thing on the other side. Head gasket surface, recess, bore. Got a piston in here at top dead center. And then we had our flat. Remember, we just scrounged around in the garage and found us a flat, bungee corded in place. And at top dead center we had a gap which we measured with a feeler gauge of 0.10 of an inch. Remember, we have a 0.75 millimeter base gasket installed. So 0.75 millimeters, which is the same as 30 thousandths of an inch. But we have a gap of 10 thousandths minus 0.010 inches equals 0.020 inches. So that tells us that that's the base gasket we ought to have. And looky there, that's the same number we came up using the fancy schmancy tool. And so that just shows you can scrounge around in your garage and then use a feeler gauge, and you can check and also set your X dimension.